Olá, olá, boa tarde a todo mundo, né, a todas e todos que estão conosco agora e aqueles que vão assistir a essa gravação em um outro momento. Aproveito então para informar que todas as atividades ficarão gravadas na página da SRI e podem ser acessadas as much as you can or you want. So, I invited Professor Karen Barto, and I thank you so much, Karen, and everybody that are with us in one more activity in the International Week 2021. Introducing Professor Karen, she is English language specialist for the U.S. Department of State and writing specialist at the University of Arizona. Has over 20 years of experience in international education, including teaching foreign language, writing across the curriculum and content. She has also practiced in study abroad, foreign language assessment, curriculum design and development, and teacher training with a focus on English medium instruction. Karen has trained over 250 EMI professors from the 5 countries and is undertaking research on the impact of EMI teacher training programs. She is also co-author of a leading textbook on second language acquisition from Cambridge Univesity Press. And so, Karen, you are very welcome. And I would like to invite you to talk about us and about EMI and all this impact in the teaching, okay?
Thank you so much, Christina. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate your invitation.
It's our pleasure.
Wonderful. So I think that we can go straight to the slides, possibly. Let's see, I'm checking. Sorry, I'm new to this system. All right, let me see here. Yes, there we are. Okay. So what I'd like to talk about today is English medium instruction as part of the internationalization process through faculty and student support. So as an overview, I'll spend a few minutes talking about English medium instruction and how it connects to internationalization. And then we'll spend a few minutes talking about some challenges inherent to English medium instruction, both for students and for faculty. And then we'll spend some more time talking about how we can support stakeholders for success in English medium instruction, being both student and faculty. And I'd like to close with the idea of using communities of practice as a web of support to both students and faculty in English medium instruction. So to begin, I think we always can start with some definitions. So what is English medium instruction anyway? Ron Martinez from the Federal University at Paraná defines it as the teaching of university school subjects through English in countries in which English is not the usual language of instruction. So that covers some of the important ideas. Dearden from the British Council in 2014 defines it as the use of the English language to teach academic subjects in countries or jurisdictions where the first language of the majority of the population is not English. So I've kind of made a summary definition here, combining those and kind of my own thoughts about English medium instruction, and that is the idea that English medium instruction is using English to teach and learn at university or high schools, when most students, and usually the faculty too, are not native English speakers, and the home country language is not English. So to think about English medium instruction and why it's even a thing, it makes sense to think about English and internationalization. So the Bologna process in 1999 with the European Union has definitely been very influential in the creation of English medium instruction as a more prominent trend worldwide. It was 1999 that the EU agreed to make education more comparable, compatible, and coherent in Europe's member countries. And the key component to how they would accomplish this comparability, compatibility, and coherence was internationalization. Now, English was not in the official definition of internationalization used by the EU at this time, but practically speaking, that's what it became because of the already present political, historical, and global dominance of English as an international language in that time period. And so English medium instruction has become part of a larger worldwide trend. Old classes in English as a foreign language and English for specific purposes like English for business, English for law, English for medicine. Many of those classes and programs around the world have disappeared and are now covered by the teaching of content subjects in regular university and high school programs in English. So rather than having your whole degree program in one language and then a few classes in English for business, your whole degree is in business now, and it's in English now. So the goals and promises of internationalization have been to offer more access to education, to research, and the global market, basically to allow everyone to join the global conversation and thereby improve standards of living. So when we think about English medium instruction and internationalization, EMI definitely plays a role. It touts access to education, research, and the job market. And it also usually touts the idea of automatic language acquisition. If I study in English, then obviously my English will get better. So that will make me also more competitive in this global market. And we have seen very fast growth worldwide of English medium instruction programs. In Europe, between 2001 and 2014, there was a 1,000% growth rate, finishing in over 8,000 programs in Europe in 2014. And there's also been very fast growth in Brazil. In 2016, there were 671 EMI courses known to British Council researchers. And by 2018, there were over 1,000. And there are estimates based on the research done at this time that by 2019, there would be another 200 to 300 programs in existence at that time. So basically nearly doubling in a couple of years. So despite this rapid growth of English medium instruction programs, research has really not kept a pace on either practices within English medium instruction programs or results of them. And in fact, there is a lack of evidence so far that English medium instruction actually leads to economic development in developing nations. And there's also a lack of evidence so far that English medium instruction actually leads to improved English or comparable content knowledge and skills to if the students had learned in their home language. So this lack of evidence of effectiveness and impact of English medium instruction is a reality. But there's also currently a lack of evidence of ineffectiveness or a lack of impact from English medium instruction. The fact is, we just don't know yet. There's not a lot of research about the effects of English medium instruction in the home countries and in the global education realm and marketplace. So while we're waiting for more research, we can still use knowledge from past studies and experiences to optimize the chances of a success for our students, our faculty, and our institutions. So there are a lot of challenges to participating in English medium instruction around the world. Students experience a lot of challenges for this. Just learning level appropriate study skills and techniques can be a big challenge. Any educator can tell you that students need support for this in their first language or their second language. So in their second language, they probably need even more support than in their first language. But of course, this comes at a time when the instructor is struggling to cover the same amount of material as they covered before in a native language. That's already difficult. There's not so much time in the curriculum, and it can be hard to then take time out to really train students in how to be effective learners at the new levels they're at, different stages of university, graduate school, etc. There's also just the situation of learning in a second language. So Cummins began this concept in 1979, but has published, over the years, different things about it. There's the idea that there are different kinds of second language. There's basic interpersonal skills, like being able to chat before the conference session starts, or ask how someone's weekend went, or order your dinner at a restaurant. And then there's cognitive academic language skills, where you're understanding trigonometry for the first time, or you're trying to integrate 3 different theories that have some commonalities and some differences, and you need to understand how they work together to advance in your field. Those are 2 pretty different things, and we do know that it's just more difficult to learn this complex matter and material in a second language. So that's another big challenge for students. And then just learning how to study effectively in English is a challenge for students. If we think about our experiences as students in our native languages, and how hard it was sometimes, so many articles to read, maybe so many videos to watch, so many papers to write and presentations to prepare, we often felt overwhelmed in our first language, where we had a hard time understanding the new difficult concepts of our fields and memorizing all these new terms that corresponded to all these new ideas. And then imagine doing that in your second language. So you do need kind of a different set of tools to keep yourself going and to make efficient, effective use of your time, and to make sure that you are accomplishing some English language learning to be able to manage the content you need to learn, rather than only thinking about the content you need to learn, because the language part of it comes automatically as it would in your native language. And faculty experience a lot of challenges in English medium instruction too. I put preparation time first. I think any faculty who have already worked with any aspect of English medium instruction can tell you it takes longer to prepare. Professors are not just switching from Portuguese to English and otherwise teaching their classes in all the same ways. They need to find effective materials in English. They need to change their ways of teaching because the students just can't learn from the materials in English the same way they could learn from similar materials in Portuguese. So they're working with students who are going to have a harder time understanding, and they need to keep those students motivated and engaged. They're also working with students who have a wide range of attitudes about English medium instruction. Some are so excited for the opportunity and they can't wait to work hard and improve their English, and others are mad. Why should I have to do this in English? I live in Brazil. I grew up speaking Portuguese. I'm staying in Brazil. Why on earth am I studying in English? And they need to find ways to motivate and engage both of those students and everyone in between. It's a big challenge. It requires quite an emotional and empathetic undercurrent that we don't always think about needing to keep track of as professors. And then faculty are usually also still trying to keep up with the research themselves, and they're trying to publish and do their whole professional side of things while their teaching time increases, usually with no change in compensation and no change in a normal teaching schedule. So probably the biggest faculty challenge in English medium instruction is an extra 10 hours a week or maybe more of work needed in their lives, but there's no one to give them an extra 10 hours a week, so it has to come from somewhere. And then there are also challenges in English medium instruction that have been found to be common to both faculty and students. Motivation can be a big issue because in English medium instruction, many people are not language learners by choice. They are language learners because they have to use English medium instruction now. In my case, I've always loved language my whole life. When I was a child, I loved to play language games and I wrote for fun. And as soon as I could take a foreign language class, I did. And even before I could take foreign language, I made my older brother get textbooks from the school and help me start learning French over the summer. I just loved language. And it was a very interesting shift for me when I began teaching English for specific purposes instead of, French as a foreign language. I realized not all my students have this love of language, and that's fair. They love their disciplines. They love their content. And that was my discipline and my content. And nobody made me love physics at the same time I loved French and English. So it's an interesting challenge that suddenly you have to really change your lifestyle and your learning style just for this language. And identity is a big thing. In a second language, it's hard to express yourself in a way that feels natural to you until you have reached a really high level of proficiency. And I worked with some professors from Mexico during the 100,000 initiative, trying to bring 100,000 Mexican people to the United States for study in English and teacher training. And one of these English medium professors said, I just don't feel like myself in English and I can't teach right. When I teach, I bring my whole person into it. I share my sense of humor. I share my personality. And in English, I have no personality. I'm just trying to make sure I get the right words. And that's a bigger deal than we think. It takes some time to really begin to feel like yourself in English, expressing yourself in that second language. And another thing that occurs is a situation called diglossia. So this is the idea that basically you end up with language use of different languages for different purposes in your life. And maybe they don't cross so much. So in my own case, in studying French in graduate school in the United States, because I was in the United States and focusing on French, I ended up just knowing a lot of people who spoke both French and English, and we just kind of all spoke French, English, or franglais, the mix between the two, and it was fine. And for years of my life, I really didn't have to think that much about if I was speaking English or French. Most people in my life would understand me, whatever I came out with. But in the cases of English medium instruction, a lot of the time, people have a professional identity in English and then a personal identity in their home language, their home country. It gets even strange trying to talk to family members about what you do when you leave the house 8 hours a day, because you don't have the words for it in your home language anymore. So that takes some time to get to after the EMI programs are quite well established. In the beginning stages, when you're transitioning, that's probably not an issue. But I have known, for example, learners from the Middle East who noted that they even had trouble communicating in professional settings in Saudi Arabia because they didn't know the words for any of their professional ideas and tools in Arabic. And the older generations of workers didn't know those terms in English. So it makes for some interesting language contact issues. And then there's just the question of confidence. Professors are used to being the experts in their fields. And university students, many of them have worked very hard to get there. They study hard. They know pretty well what to do. They're used to being strong students, and suddenly they're swimming all the time. They're making so many mistakes in their English, and it's so much harder to learn and understand. And it can really erode the confidence of both our students and our faculty to be working in the second language all the time. So we need ways to support our students and faculty due to these challenges of English medium instruction. We probably believe at this point that the benefits are real and they're going to come, and that with more research and time, we're going to understand what they are and really see them realized. But in the meantime, it's hard, and we want to make sure that we help our students and faculty arrive at success rather than letting them keep swimming alone. So one big way to support students in English medium instruction is through a process called translanguaging. So Dois and colleagues in the Basque Country of Spain defined this as the process by which bilingual students and teachers engage in complex discursive practices in order to make sense of and communicate in multilingual classrooms. And they also called it the adoption of bilingual supportive scaffolding practices. So what this means in less complex terms is allowing students and faculty to use all the languages they share to make learning more effective. And a lot of the times in our traditions of foreign language learning, we have thought of learning the second language as an additive process. We want to add a language. But in cases of immigration, for example, we've also seen a lot of first language loss. And we didn't traditionally see this to a large degree in foreign language learning. Like if I'm in Brazil and I'm Brazilian and I'm learning English as a foreign language. However, that was before large-scale changes like English medium instruction. So basically, the idea of translanguaging is to view the first language and any other languages your students and faculty know as assets to be worked with and used in addition to English, rather than as seeing them as something to be avoided at all costs, to make sure we only teach in English, only think in English, only write in English, etc. So the point is, we know from a lot of different research, for example, Baker and Hüttner's work highlighting EMI programs in Austria and Thailand. In both of those programs, and actually in university programs in the UK, they found that still most classrooms that included people of multiple language backgrounds used languages other than English in teaching, in group work, in materials referencing, in communication about the content in one way or another. So we know already in practice that it's happening using multiple languages. But Doey's and colleagues and many other people in English medium instruction, myself included, just like to remind that English medium instruction is not required to be exclusively monolingual and exclusively in English. So another way we can support students in English medium instruction is to teach them study skills explicitly. In the EMI training course that we've just wrapped up at CEFET-MG with some amazing CEFET-MG professors who were so wonderful to work with, we talked about metacognitive scaffolding and this idea of helping students go step by step to learn new things and understand new things. And so one thing we can do is explicitly teach them how to manage those study skills. We can also make it very clear to our students when language use will be assessed. So they're studying so hard, they're working so hard to get good grades and pass the exams and move into research opportunities, job opportunities, educational opportunities beyond undergrad and high school. So they need to know how they're going to be graded, in essence. They need to know, when will I be graded on how well I say this in English? When will I be graded on whether or not I know these words in English? And when will I be graded on just showing that I understand the content of my physics class or the content of my marketing class? Another way we can support our students in English medium instruction is to move gradually into English. So we don't have to immediately switch overnight from all Portuguese to all English. I worked with professors in Japan who, their first semester teaching with English medium instruction, they did about 10% of the whole semester in English. And they began very slowly. In the first few weeks of class, they just told their students about English medium instruction, just little bits at a time, and taught them a word or two in the field. And then, by week 4 or 5, they had, a question or two to work on in class and to try to do some of it in English and not only in Japanese. And then by week 6, there was one question on the test in English. Everything else was still in Japanese. And that first question, especially I'm thinking of one astronomy professor in particular, that first question was a calculation, but it was written in English rather than in Japanese. And then, by the end of that semester, there were maybe 5 test questions out of 60 that were in English. But those students began to get some understanding of what they were going to need to begin to think about as learners. And they just began to get exposure to English without being terrified of it, basically. So you may move less gradually than that. You may end up at 50% English in your first semester. But if you don't, that's also not necessarily a bad thing. And gradually over semesters, as your students advance and get kind of more used to English medium instruction, you build up more classes in EMI. The older students will be telling the younger students about what it's like, and the younger students will begin to have an expectation of more EMI in the earlier stages. They will have seen it happen before. And so it will be easier with subsequent generations to start with more EMI than with maybe your first few cohorts. Another way that you can support students in English medium instruction, well, two ways. These are maybe larger scale. They would require some bigger questions of program design and administrative support, financial support, maybe even new hiring of different kinds of experts than you're used to working with within your departments. But we've seen a lot of success at the University of Arizona in our Center for English as a Second Language in Pathways programs, where international students take university classes offered by university academic departments, and then an English specialist offers a support class to those students for their content class. And this has been very, very successful in helping international students integrate into the American university system. This same concept can work very well for English medium instruction students. It does require, again, English specialist teachers to teach those support classes. And they're the ones then giving the students extra training in those study skills, in how to effectively learn in English, in how to build their English language proficiency at the same time they're working through their content. So classes like that can be extremely effective, confidence boosting for the students, helpful to the students and the content professors, because the content professors can say, none of them understood my lecture, but it's recorded. Can you go through it with them again? And the support teacher can go through the lecture and insert scaffolding questions and comprehension activities and so on. Another thing that's very helpful to students in English medium instruction is to offer writing support. Like writing centers, like the one that was established a couple years ago at the Federal University of Paraná by Ron Martinez. And we have a few of those in the US as well. And I'm a writing specialist at one, so of course I'm biased, but I see so much growth in the students and frankly the faculty I work with at our writing center in helping them improve their means of expressing themselves effectively in writing in English. They really grow in their knowledge and understanding of content in their discipline as well. Now, faculty also need support in English medium instruction. They need more time and money for training, for sourcing materials and course preparation, and for gradual creation and implementation of EMI. And I was very happy to see already at CEFET-MG, we can see the commitment that the administration has there to offering as much training as possible to faculty, and also to appreciating the challenges that faculty experience in this and allowing for gradual creation and implementation of EMI. And I think it's going to make such wonderful EMI programs in the long run. And I think it's a very good strategy as compared to requiring an overnight shift. Another way to support faculty in English medium instruction is to offer pedagogy support, expert consultations, peer observations, in addition to trainings. And also offer faculty English language support, somewhere they can go and say, this is my syllabus. Can you proofread it, or can we go through it together? This is the first test I'm giving my students with English language questions on it. Can you tell me how they look? Even these are my lecture slides. Can we go through them together? The faculty are working hard in a second language as well. And because of the time constraints on them, it would be very helpful if they had this English language support for their publishing processes too. And of course, survey the faculty and the students to see what else they need. So we can look from our past experiences and from all the previous research, but also things are changing so fast. Just the idea that, everybody's shifted to online teaching in the last year. Faculty may need other supports that we as trainers or administrators have not realized yet. So ask them. So the last idea I'd like to focus on is that of using communities of practice as English medium instruction support. So a community of practice is defined as a group of people with a common interest who work together to improve their practice in that area. So a community of practice could be virtual or face-to-face. I belong to many, internet groups of other folks who work in disciplines like mine. And I learn so much from them. And there are many people that I'm now in regular contact with who I've never met in real life, but who I know I can go to for support when I have a question and there's not someone right in my office who knows the answer to it. As an interdisciplinary person myself, I need a pretty wide web of support because, I work in a lot of different areas. So those can be virtual or face-to-face. Those can be in the same or different disciplines. For example, an English medium instruction community of practice might include those physics professors, the astronomy professors, the business professors, the biology professors, and the English professors. And it can include people playing the same or different roles in the larger system. So communities of practice of EMI might include both students and faculty. They might also include administrators. They might include language specialists. And they can also be formal or informal. So you could, establish official committees and groups and working groups and so on. Or it can just be realizing, oh, my colleague who I'm used to grabbing coffee with is also working to shift to English medium instruction. So I'm going to start working on EMI with them. It can go both ways. And it's important to note again that both students and faculty can benefit from communities of practice. Mentoring can be a very big part of communities of practice that would be very beneficial in an EMI setting. You can have more advanced students mentoring newer students to English medium instruction. You can have more advanced faculty mentoring faculty who are newer to English medium instruction. You can have faculty who have less experience with English medium instruction, but more experience with online teaching, working with someone in the opposite situation, so that you share your strengths and weaknesses together and build. So mentoring might look like one-to-one pairing, but it can also look like maybe optional student clubs just to practice English or study together. Maybe there's an English support center with some faculty who are able to answer student questions while they're there, almost like a homework help center, perhaps. And that's also where the students all get together and meet when they want to have somebody else who wants to study in English. And you can also have optional faculty groups or pairings. You can have peer consults. There are several people in the CEFET-MG course who, would make excellent peer mentors to other faculty. They've already got a lot of great ideas and systems in place for effective lesson design and construction, and thoughts about effective ways to teach material and engage students. You could do peer observations where faculty can watch each other teach and just share feedback. Wow, I loved that activity. That was amazing. It looked like the students were a little lost in this part though. What are some other ways you could build them up first? You can have online discussion spaces like those I mentioned. Our CEFET-MG group has a WhatsApp group that we'll see. I invite you all to keep using it. I have a couple memes to share and a couple talks to share there. But just the idea of having a place where oh, I can go ask an EMI question here, and I don't have to think of the perfect person to ask the question to. I can just put it to a whole group. And just having a place to share highs and lows, like, wow, I had this amazing lesson and it actually worked. Or, oh my gosh, I spent 3 weeks planning this amazing lesson and it flopped. Ugh, I need to vent about this. And my partner's tired of hearing about it. So, a place to share with people who understand. And this too can work across disciplines. So in all, we want to think about communities of practice as a web of support. Participation in communities of practice can and should be complex. It can work in pairs, small groups, or larger communities. It can work in multiple modalities, like just talking together, or internet chat rooms, social media conversations. It could be in talks like these. Maybe open hours for consultation. It can involve sharing roles or working with people who have different roles so that you see varying perspectives. And it can give the opportunity to keep and build connections over time, but then also to add new connections and let other connections go as your needs and practice change. And communities of practice can allow people to serve as both mentors and mentees with different people in different stages of programs, careers, etc. So in conclusion, internationalization is definitely a reality. We're very excited about a lot of aspects of it, but it does pose a lot of challenges to non-native English speakers right now. And so strong support for our students and our faculty can help everyone reap the benefits of internationalization and mitigate those negatives. So the final important ingredients for success are continued patience with our students, patience with our faculty, and regular recognition of hard work and progress. So that is what I would like to say about English medium instruction and internationalization. Are there questions for discussion or thoughts? I'll exit out of the slides so that we can see each other again. There we go. Oh, thank you, Lucas. That's very kind.
Are you listening me, everybody?
I hear you, Christina.
Okay. Karen, we had a few questions, and I will ask you in a row, but we had a lot of appropriated comments. Maybe you can roll that to check some if you want to comment.
Wonderful. Oh, you guys are so active. Thank you. Oh.
Yeah, while you give this glance, I would like to say, Karen, that your words helped us a lot to understand the EMI process, and pointed that the process, during the process, while you are developing your specific or technical content, you not only can, but yes, there are situations where it's better to use your mother language your first language. It will be better for you and for your students. It's not, as you very well said, it's not the point to teach English. You are using the English to improve the teaching. It's different. And you pointed this in a very good way. But we have two questions, very interesting. One from Karini. He asked, what difference do you see about teaching EMI in Brazil and in other countries?
Oh, that's a great question. And really, I think that it's even more complex than the difference between Brazil and other countries. There is the question of what is the kind of institution, what is the region of the country, what is the usual population of students. So teaching students who are all going to a very highly rated university where most of the, basically where most everyone is very privileged and the students have had access to English language education their whole lives. And, it's pretty normal to work with English already. That's very different than a setting where, you've had English classes and you know how to read a map to be a tourist in English, or you know how to order an ice cream, but you don't know, how to study in English. You don't know how to work in English. With Brazil, as compared to other countries, I do think that maybe it's a bit more like Russia and Japan, with there being different undercurrents. There are some folks who are very motivated and excited about English medium instruction, and there are others who are very resistant to it because they view it as an unequal situation for people with less exposure to English already. And they worry about the workload changes. In say, Northern Europe, for example, it's no big deal anymore. Like in Northern Europe, it basically happened because the professors were doing it anyway and the students wanted it anyway. And their English infrastructure was already such that, by the time they got to high school and college, you couldn't tell if they were native English speakers or not when you talked to them on the street. They already were like, C2 level English when they started anyway. They were all working in English already. So I think that is probably the biggest difference, is recognizing, in Brazil, there's still going to be a lot of challenges just with the English language, both for faculty and students. And so again, that's really why I wanted the focus of this presentation to be supporting faculty and students, to help them realize that this is not a deficit, it's an area for growth, and they're already very strong in things in Portuguese. And, your professors are amazing experts, researchers, and teachers already. And so what they're doing is adding some really cool skills, both in English and in pedagogical changes. Oh, Jefferson, you're very welcome. I'm glad it's helpful to understand.
Good answer, and good question and better answer. What I mean. Yeah, we have another one from Adriano. He is asking, what do you think is necessary to implement EMI in a higher education institution?
That is also a great question, Adriano. And that does come back to the main topic of today, and that is support. But I'll say first, it requires planning. I think that something that happens sometimes is we get kind of a top-down approach where either a government or an administration says, hey, great idea, English medium instruction. Yeah. And then the next morning, faculty get an email in their inbox that's like, hey, we need you to give your courses in English next semester. Like, that's not great. And it's probably not going to render a very effective EMI program. We do have some research that I honestly try not to cite all the time because I always feel a bit like it's pointing fingers and criticizing, but it's true. There are some institutions in China, for example, where the English medium instruction programs were really not English medium instruction at all. And nobody had the opportunity to make them better because some order got issued one day with no planning and no support. And so what happened was professors basically gave class in English, gave class in Chinese, found a few tests in English. The students failed all the tests. They said, you must be bad students. And the program was a mess, and then they started trying to improve it. They gave some English classes to the students, but the English classes were basic interpersonal English classes, not academic English classes. So then the students were even more frustrated because they were like, I'm learning to be a tourist in English and I'm still failing my content classes in English. And so it requires some planning. You need multidisciplinary expertise. You need language experts, you need pedagogy experts, and you need field-specific disciplinary experts. Because if you sent me in to just design an English medium instruction program for physics, that would be a very poor choice. Because physics was my only pass-fail class in undergraduate, and I have not studied physics since undergraduate. And I'm pretty sure my professor pulled some strings to pass me. I'll just say that. I, as an expert in second language acquisition and pedagogy, have a lot to offer professors, students, and administrators in understanding how to make programs like this work. But I don't have disciplinary expertise in physics. So I can tell you 100 things about ways to make your program better, and maybe a lot of them will, but we could still miss something really important if we're not having a dialogue between all of us. For me to find out as the pedagogy expert, oh, but this kind of activity is really common in physics class, or this particular approach is so traditional in physics that you can't shift it yet. So then we would talk about, oh, okay, if it's a practice that's really not conducive to English medium instruction, then we'll have to find ways to meet in the middle gradually to make changes. And if I just come in and tell you, do it this way, not that way, you're not going to do it this way because it's too different than that way. So we really need a lot of planning, and we need people from multiple disciplines working together on that planning.
Yeah. You never, it's never good to say that doing this way or doing that way. You need always to analyze all the situation and to flexibilize it. Sorry for my English.
I get it.
Yeah.
We understand. That's perfect.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to maybe more than ask you, it's to provoke a little bit about our thematic, that is the perspective of internationalization. How do you see, how do you feel, how you guess what it will be?
Oh, that's a really tough one. Yeah, it's like I mentioned earlier, I have always loved language and culture, and I loved being a French student. I feel like I'm still a French student today. I have a master's in it, and I've taught it for several years, and I'm still learning more about French, and I love it. And I have studied, 5 or 6 different languages with varying degrees of proficiency. And I've, studied in different places and taught in different places, trained and consulted in different places. And I realized throughout all this how privileged I am to be a native speaker of English and to have French be my second strongest language, because those are 2 very prominent world languages. And I recognize that a lot of my success and opportunity comes from what I was born into, not from only my ability or my work or anything else. And so that part of thinking about internationalization is very sobering to me. And I like to be very honest about the challenges that are there in internationalization for people whose languages are not in the top 3 or 4 world languages. It is creating an unequal and unfair situation. And I have made it a big part of my own mission to at least use my privilege to try to influence the processes to make them more equitable. And again, to really support faculty and students in university and higher education settings where they don't have the advantage of having had English since they were 5, and where maybe they don't have a lot of, world experience. There hasn't been a lot of money for them to go travel and understand different cultural approaches and so on. I want to help professors figure out how to make English materials as accessible as possible to their students. I want to help administrations understand what they're asking of their faculty and their students. And I want to make sure that we don't repeat a lot of those situations like the one I mentioned in China. None of those were bad students. None of those were bad professors. That was a bad situation with really just not enough support and not enough planning involved. And so I really think that in our internationalization processes, we do need to be aware and mindful of those inequalities, and we need to be giving more supports in places that don't have the automatic high level of language proficiency in English, that don't have, particularly privileged economic backgrounds. We all know that our students who are taking care of their families at the same time they're studying have less time than students who are 20 and whose parents rent them a nice apartment near school. And, they go to the movies twice a week for fun. Nobody's wrong in that situation, but those are different. And we need to be sure to help our students and our faculty so that everyone has the actual opportunity to succeed, like is the goal of our internationalization plans. Yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm preaching. Sorry,
but no.
Very important.
I think this is the moment to try to open up the eyes of the students. And for example, Leticia Vargas just asked, what skills do you think it's more important for the student success? So I would like to start to answer that, and for sure I ask you to complement it. Because I was thinking while you were talking about how privileged you are, and I guess in Brazil we are privileged too. For sure, we have more developed countries like yours than ours, but you have under ones, so developed. So we still privileged, but as English is not our mother language, let's to start yesterday. As it is important, impossible, let's start today. If it's important today, it's tomorrow the dead, yeah. You need to start, you need to open your eyes, you need to be curious, you need to be flexible, you need to want to learn different cultures, different way to express themselves, because for sure the language is just the way to express the culture.
Mhm.
And so we need this, Leticia, for sure to start. But now Karen can, please, Karen, to complement the answer.
I agree 100%, Christina. The first step is that curiosity and the desire to learn. Really tapping into that is huge because it makes everything else easier. Then the other thing is, I do believe strongly that communities of practice among students are vital to student success. And students who learn to work together and who learn to study together and help each other are definitely all going to go farther than if you try to be the individual who gets ahead or the individual who just makes it through, whichever one you're doing. But in the classes that I have taught, I always work very hard to create a sense of community among my learners. But I think it's worked the best in the classes where my students came in with that mindset and they beat me to it. Like I shared with our training group that I've had some classes where I would realize, oh, someone's absent today and they're going to miss this very important thing. Oh, and I'll just say out loud, because I think out loud when I teach, and I'll just say, oh, I need to be sure to send so-and-so this material because they really need it. And then one of the students will say, oh, don't worry, Dr. Barto, I'll get a picture and I'll send it right now in our WhatsApp group. And I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, we made a group the first day of class. So don't worry about that stuff. Just tell us when you need something to go to the whole group. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Okay. And those students always do great. Like, that student caught up because he had the material before even the next class, and he was able to just review it before he came to class after missing. So creating that sense of community where you have people you can count on and work with, that also helps you realize as individuals and helps your professors realize when sometimes the instructional practices aren't working great. If you all are working together and you realize, oh, you got 3 groups of 5 students working together out of 30, and none of you understood a particular concept, then, it's really helpful to go to class the next day and be like, we realize that none of us understand this. And then your professor can be like, oh, 50% of my students did not understand this idea. Then they can say, you're not supposed to understand it yet. This is the hard part. Sorry, I should have told you that. Or, oh, I thought you all understood that already. Let's backtrack. Let's work together to figure this out. And so it helps on a lot of levels. The other thing I would say is consistency. If you give yourself, even just 20 minutes a day of English practice to just be getting more used to English. Listen to internet radio in English. NPR.org has, like all these shows in it. VOA, Voice of America, has learner-focused language that you can listen to that's like news stories and stuff. You can listen to music that's just for fun. You can watch series on Netflix with the subtitles on. Everything, like whatever you can do to expose yourself to the language and make yourself more comfortable will help you. And the more you produce English, the better you're going to get and faster. So maybe keep a small journal in English 5 days a week where you just write what you ate for dinner and what you did for the day and what you're thinking about that day, 10 minutes. And let yourself make as many mistakes as you want. It doesn't matter if you're, perfect at it. But in that process, you're going to notice, oh, 5 days in a row, I haven't known how to say this word. Maybe I'll look that word up. It sounds like that's a word I say a lot and think about a lot. And I remember in my time studying in France, I kept a daily journal like that. And at the end of the year, I went back and read the first week of the journal and was just shocked at all the things I didn't know and all the grammar things that were different. Like my language usage had really changed over the year. And I still remember chemin. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know the word chemin, like path. Like, how did I not know the word chemin? I thought I always knew this word because of course you need it. You say it all the time. And so just really working to produce that language. Talk to yourself at home, talk to your cat, talk to your dog in English. Feels ridiculous, it's okay. Just do it, get it out, and you'll notice what you don't know, and you'll be able to look things up, ask for help, and work to practice more. And if you are someone who feels the resistance to English because you are proud of Portuguese and you love your language and you love your country, that's 100% fair. And in that case, maybe you want to watch stuff on YouTube about Brazil in English. Maybe you want to learn about indigenous cultures in Brazil that are written in academic journals in English. You don't have to become like a UK lover or an America lover or something to improve your English and gain access to this world conversation. And it's totally fair if you don't want to do that. And so I think that's really important to know as well, that you can use English for your purposes. And the more you practice at that, the better you will get and the more influence you will have. Yeah.
Oh, Karen, so good, these tips. Exactly like this. Just do it. Just do it. Go, focus, and just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are going for the 1 hour and 10 minutes. And so good that at least me, I didn't see the times pass because it's very good to talk to you, to listen from your experience and not only your pedagogical skills and everything you give us, but your tips, your way to deal with us. And I have a lot of thank you in name of the CEFET-MG, our teachers, and in the name of the International Affairs Office, because you helped a lot. And so before to start to thank you everybody that are supporting us, I ask you if you have if you want to give us your last words.
Certainly. Yeah, I do. I so appreciate the invitation, and I have just really enjoyed working with your professors in the English medium instruction online training, and hearing from everyone here. It's been a wonderful experience. I'm so excited to see what is going to come with English medium instruction at CEFET-MG, and I know it's going to be great. Like that, I can already tell from working with your professors and just hearing the good questions here today. I think, again, the biggest things, as you have just said, is probably to combine two philosophies of just do it and be patient. And I think we have to accept that we're going to make mistakes. We have to accept that sometimes things are going to feel like a huge failure. Sometimes things are going to feel very frustrating. And we just keep doing it. And we're going to keep getting better at it. And that's enough. And as administrators support their faculty, and as faculty support their students, and as students support each other, it's all going to work out.
Yeah, and we together can support a better world. We need this.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, so now it's time for you to take a small class in Portuguese, because I will thank you everybody in Portuguese. I know you like to listen it.
I like to practice. It's good.
Yes. Então, eu gostaria de agradecer a todas as pessoas envolvidas no planejamento dessa Semana Internacional 2021, né, que são os professores de todas as universidades, from our campus, Karen. A lot of people involved in it. And from the hostage course, o curso de hospedagem com suas meninas que estão nos dando suporte, from our communication secretary, a SECOM, pelas artes e pelo suporte para e na transmissão e na divulgação. Agradecer a minha equipe, from the International Affairs Office, all the team, we are a small team, nós somos um grupo pequeno, mas todo mundo muito envolvido, todo mundo trabalhou duro, desde da produção da ideia, o que vamos fazer. O ano passado a gente teve o International Day, last year, and so we decided to do something, we are not going to do more for the same thing. So, não vamos fazer mais do mesmo, vamos fazer diferente, vamos tentar, né? Pelo menos nós tentamos, envolvemos muitas pessoas na instituição, e, obviamente, a vocês que estão participando e nos ouvindo, seja ao vivo ou seja na gravação. Muito obrigada a todo mundo. A última informação é que a Semana Internacional ela vai oferecer certificados em português e em inglês para todos os participantes. Bastam que assinem a lista de presença. Os certificados serão por atividades. Maiores informações no site, que já está aí, né? E convido vocês para amanhã de manhã, nós teremos uma palestra com representantes das grandes associações brasileiras que estão envolvidos na discussão da internacionalização, das políticas de internacionalização, no ensino híbrido, no ensino remoto, como que vamos ficar, né? Karen, again, thank you a lot. Thank you, everybody. And I think we done from today. No, I have another thing. Okay. Just one more thing. Nós vamos ter agora, às 18h30, workshops in línguas. 9 workshops in English and 1 in Spanish. But unfortunately, the register is finished, but we are so happy because we've fulfilled all the space, all the position for all of them. So thank you a lot. You want to say something?
I want to say also thank you so much to both you and Hugo for all your support during these weeks that I've been working with you all, because that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, people like being so supportive. I felt that I could really give my best as a trainer in this time with all the support from you, and supporting your faculty and students that same way will just be amazing. And I can't wait to see how it works.
Okay, so thank you all, thank you everybody.
Thank you, obrigada.